following coverage coming up at the bottom of the hour. Breaking news as it happens. News Radio WTAM 1100.
Hey, Stella!
The following material may not be suitable for all listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
What did that say?
Hey, Stella!
Stella the dog is dead. I repeat, Stella the dog is dead. The lethal injection, a shot in Cleveland, Ohio, October 6th, 2004.
The Rick Gilmour Show on News Radio WTAM 1100.
First things first, let's turn the cell phone off so it does not make noise while we're broadcasting. There we go. Yep, 578-1100 in the classic 216 area code, toll-free 888-723-WTAM. I'll open up the contest lines at 578-1111 as well. I repeat, Stella, my dog, who I have spoken of many times on this program, I gave her to a friend of mine, Navy Bob, about 5 months ago. I was walking into the backdraft to have my stick dinner on Wednesday when a phone call came in. It was Navy Bob. And he said, I've got some bad news for you, Rick. And I said, let me guess, Stella's dead. And he said, yeah. I said, from what? Apparently cancer and kidney failure. Apparently she was whittling in the house, which she never had little accidents in the house, ever. I had the flu one time. I was on the couch for 18 hours. The dog didn't have to go out. It was as if she knew that she wasn't going out, that Daddy was sick. So she peed in the house a couple of times and laid around all weekend, and they took her to the vet, and the vet said she has to be put down. And I'm a little unhappy about that. As George Carlin said, life is a series of dogs. She had a rough life. She wasn't even 7 years old. She's only 45 pounds. Not like a Great Dane where they pass away when they're 6 or 7. She was a stray. So she had many daddies. She was a man's dog. Whoever had her to begin with had her about 3 years. She was fixed. She'd had a litter of puppies. She'd been beaten. She had broken teeth. She had scars on her corneas. My landlord came home in Tremont when I was living in an apartment of his in Westlake. And his neighbors said, "You're mean." He said, "What are you talking about?" They said, "You left your dog out, and it's February, and you left your dog out while you went on vacation? And you left your dog to sit on the front porch for 3 days?" He said, "I don't have a dog." They said, "You do now." He took the dog in, kept the dog for about a month. I went down to pay my rent. He was in his office, and he had a printed picture on his computer of this red dog, the color of new rust. Said she answers to the name Rufus. She's a good dog, blah, blah, blah. Then I said, "Well, my wife would love to have a dog, but the lease says no pets." He said, "Oh, you want her? You can have her." So we took the dog, and the first night she nibbled a little at the door frame. Perhaps I'll replay for you the Rich call. I spoke with a guy named Rich, and we went on and on about dogs. This program's gone to the dogs this evening. If you want to talk politics, that's for Wednesday night after the debates with Brad Sussman and myself. If you want to talk about dogs, you want to tell dog stories, your favorite dogs, that's fine. I gave you the phone number. You know it, you love it, you call it. So I took the dog in. The first night she nibbled a bit at the door frame. The second night we came home, we couldn't get in the house. She'd torn up so much carpeting and so much of the door frame, I had to shoulder the door open. Thusly, from there on after, Stella the dog had to be put in a cage every time we left the house. The first cage was a plastic job, and she tore it apart. The second cage was one of those heavy-duty metal jobs that fold up. She got out. How? Call her Houdini. But she did. She got out. She managed to figure out, like that dog on TV last week, remember the one that let all his buddies out of the kennel? She managed how to undo the hinge to get out of the cage. All right, I fixed that. I had to take a pair of channel locks and go around and clamp everything down super tight. No, that didn't work either. Then we had to take hardware wire and wire the cage together. The dog would bark as long as you left. 20 minutes, 2 hours. I stood outside one time and listened to her bark constantly. Bark, 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 bark. For 20 minutes before I left. I'd come home and let her out of the cage, which I eventually had to take another cage door off the plastic cage and wire it to the front of the other cage door. She was literally breaking the welds on a cage with her teeth. There would be blood in the bottom of the cage. Dog's a nut. German Shepherd Terrier. They're not right. They're very smart. They're also insane. Have you ever had a German Shepherd? You'll know what I'm talking about. Or a German Shepherd mix. You'll know what I'm talking about. But of rather hardy stock. My wife was crying when we came home and the dog had torn up everything. She thought that I was going to have the dog put to sleep or do something like that. And in fact, my landlord said to me, when he gave me the dog, well, if you ever can't keep the dog, don't take her to the pound, because he took the dog to the pound and asked if it was possible that if no one would take the dog, would they call him and let him know so that he could get the dog back. And they said no. After 4 days at Wiley Avenue, or Willie Avenue as I always called it, they'll put the dog to sleep. That's it. They're not going to call you back. They're not going to let you know. They just put the dog to sleep. So I said, sure, I'll let you know if I ever have to get rid of the dog or, Well, I had the dog for about 3 years. Now, 2 different vets looked at that dog. My vet and my landlord's vet both said she was 3 years old. She'd had a litter of puppies. She was fixed. You can tell by looking at their teeth, apparently, how old the dog is. So I gave the dog away when she was just a little over 6. Let's say it was my birthday weekend. I didn't put the dog to sleep. I didn't give the dog away. I kept the dog. I got divorced. I moved. I had this dog. I have single pane windows in my house. She literally broke a window in the apartment I lived in Westlake, trying to jump out a second-story window to follow Daddy. Or something. I don't know what the dog was thinking. Who knows? How can such a smart dog that knows how to sit, give me your paw, speak? In fact, I even taught her to speak. Which is, can't teach an old dog new tricks. Baloney. Takes a little while. It's not easy to teach an old dog new tricks, but you can teach an old dog new tricks. It's kind of like teaching Trevisano how to work a computer. It can be done. It's not easy, but it can be done. So, Memorial Day weekend, my birthday weekend, I was having a big weekend, a lot of stuff going on, a lot of stuff to do, having a birthday party, blah, 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 blah. So my friend Navy Bob says, well, they've got 2 dogs and 2 cats, but their one dog is 14 and not feeling so well. And I remind you, if you are elderly and well-to-do and you're not feeling so well, put me in your will. Remember who entertains you in your twilight years. So he said, I'd love to take the dog for the weekend, Rick. We'll take the dog and We'll make sure she's fine, and you can pick her up whenever you want. I said, all right. So I gave away my dog to Navy Bob for the weekend, which ended up being forever. Because I thought, I'm never home, or when I am home, the dog, she's fine, as long as Daddy's home. But all she does is, sleep. I'll let her out of the cage. She barks. She runs around. She does that, because she's so happy to see me. And then she eats, and then she goes to sleep. Now, where I live, my yard, Goldman, you've never seen my yard, have you? It's all concrete. No grass. Somebody concreted the entire yard. Because it's a city lot, 44 by 80, with a house on it that takes up about 3/4 of the lot, so the rest of it you park on. And there's no garage, so there's no room for a lawnmower, so you don't need to have a lawnmower because it's all concrete. All you have to deal with is the weeds that try to sprout up through the cracks. But there's nothing more pathetic than watching a dog pee-pee on concrete and have it run because of the angle of the concrete back on her feet. And behind me, there was a building that was abandoned, and they had a nice yard, and I would take the dog back there and walk the dog around in the grass and then clean up once every 6 months or so. In the wintertime, Stella the dog liked to, I don't know how to put it. Stella the dog would pick up things that she had made and have them hanging out of her mouth like a cigar. Frozen. Why? I don't know.
For me to poop on.
Then the building behind me, somebody bought it and they redid it, and there went the yard. So now there's no yard at all. A little strip of grass across the street at an apartment building, and I'd have to walk the dog there. So it just seemed like a good idea that if Navy Bob took the dog, and I asked him, how's the dog? Do you have to put her in a cage? Oh, no. The dog's perfectly happy. I said, what? You don't have to put that dog in a cage? That crazy, insane dog. You don't have to put it in a cage. No, the dog's fine. She sleeps on the bed and puts her head on the pillows. I said, yeah, I know. That's the way the dog is. Don't you put your head on the pillow? That's why the dog puts her head on the pillow. Well, and the dog, being a German Shepherd, being very personified, so apparently, eventually, they had to take the dog to the vet. And apparently, it cost my buddy Navy Bob $400 to get Stella her shots, and apparently he said she had heartworm or something. Well, she seemed perfectly fine when I had her. I've never seen a dog move so quickly. When I was in Westlake at that apartment, we had a great big yard. That dog could run 500 feet away and 500 feet back faster than any dog I've ever owned. Life is a series of dogs. More of the story after your triple Doppler forecast from TV3 meteorologist Betsy Kling. Clear tonight, lower 40s, currently 54 degrees in Cleveland, 54 degrees tomorrow morning on the Big One. Get your best bronze coverage with Butch Davis, Doug Deacon, Jeff Garcia. Wake up informed. Don't be a dum-dum. Listen to Wills and Coleman weekday mornings from 5 until 9 here on your AM home of the Browns, us. News Radio, WTAM 1100. So apparently the dog had, I don't know, something wrong with her. Maybe they just had to give her pills for heartworm because she hadn't been treated for it in a while. But it cost him $400. And I said, she's your dog now. I said, I don't have $400. That's, vets are expensive. Veterinarians are as much money as going to a doctor or more. I mean, they are a doctor. They charge like they're a heart surgeon. But then, apparently, Stella the dog was fine until October 6th, 2004. Apparently, Stella had cancer and kidney failure. Now, I don't know how she got cancer. Do dogs get cancer in 4 months? I know that dogs, obviously, live more quickly than humans do. Did she die of a broken heart? I wasn't the only daddy she had, however, I had her half her life. Who had her the first half? Why did she have scars on her corneas and broken teeth? Was that from being a stray and fighting with other dogs? I don't know. I don't know. I feel sorry for her. However, had she been taken to the pound 3 years before, she would have been dead. So if nothing else, I extended her life by 3 years. And it's unfortunate. And in a way, I'm kind of glad that I didn't have to take her to the vet. I never went to visit her. Never once. Bob kept saying, come on over and see your dog. I said, no, she's your dog. All it's going to do is drive her nuts and drive me nuts. I can't take the dog back. I got rid of the cage. I threw the cage away. It was rusty. It was wired together. I thought, enough's enough. She'd sleep at Bob's house with cats lying on her belly. If you ever saw my dog interact with a cat in your life, she would jump a 4-foot fence to chase a cat in my neighborhood. I saw her do it. She would chase a cat until the cat got away. I saw her kill a possum. She didn't like critters. Anything that was in my yard was our yard, was not ours. I had a pet rat. 18 ounces of rat. That's a big rat. Lay in your hand and hang over both sides of it. I know Stella would have killed that rat. What, Ray called and said, stop talking about poop. It's dog poop. All right, I'll stop. Fine. And I would take that rat out of the aquarium that she lived in. He lived in? Oh, yeah, I guess that one was a he. And I'd set it on the floor. And that dog would look at me and look at that rat, and look back at me, and look at the rat, and look back at me, and look at the rat. And I know that Stella would have killed that rat if I would have said, get it. But she knew that rat lived in the house and was my rat, and she wouldn't kill it. Such a smart doggy. She should have lived to be 14. That's what mutts do. That's why you take a mutt. That's why you don't get an Irish Wolfhound or a Great Dane or a St. Bernard. They only live 6 or 7 years.
Skipper key.
Well, you get one of them little well, they get torn up at the dog show. They get their throat ripped out by the Irish Wolfhounds. They're a chew toy. Stella was not a chew toy. I would bring Stella to work. My boss's boss thought it was me that smelled like a chemical spill. It was not me. I'd not just come from the Tom Tom Club. It was probably the dog. And me ending up divorced and being a bachelor, well, I didn't realize it. My house stunk like a dog. I had a friend come over and he was like, "Ooh, boy." I said, "What's that?" He said, trying to be kind here." I said, "No, lay it on me, pal. Put me on, pal, put me on." And the house stunk like a dog. Well, now the house does not stink like a dog. And when I go home, there's nothing left of Stella but a picture on the refrigerator. And it's a shame. And there's nothing I can do. Well, there's something we did do. I had a germ of an idea that ran past Goldman, and he put together... Have you ever heard... Well, do we have time for one phone call? Joe, you're on the air.
Yeah, Rick?
Yes.
How you doing today? I've been wondering, is there any way to get a copy of that song you usually play, that JFK song?
Yes, tape the radio program. Get yourself a nice Maxell or something, put it in a cassette player, set it up, and between about 9:50 and 10 o'clock, you can hear the motorcade sped on. So we put one together for Stella. A monumental task, a piece of work that I could not have done without Ryan Goldman, good producer who did it. I wrote the script, and he put it all together, and more of your phone calls, more of the program. After we give you important words coverage of what in the world's happening, I'm Rick Gilmour, the dog lover's friend, and the gravy train sped on.
Where were you on October 6th, 2004?
And now, here's Stella.
Bark not when you're hungry and when you want food. Bark, 'cause food will do when you're hungry.
Just a moment. We have a bulletin coming in.
Here is a bulletin from APL News.
Sit down, please. Sit down, please.
Something has happened on the gravy train route. On the gravy train route.
Ich bin ein German Shepherd.
One shot was injected.
Put me down, Doc. Put me down. Put me down, Doc. Put me down.
Stella the dog has been mortally wounded by this shooting.
Sit down, please. Sit down, please.
More details just arrived. Mr. Gilmour jumped up. He called no, no. No, no. No, no.
The food.
No, no.
The dinner ball.
No, no.
The commotion.
No, no. The gravy train sped on.
Rick's world is very different now.
Stella died at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
She's dead all right. She's dead all right.
More details just arrived. Mr. Gilmour jumped up. He called no, no. The gravy train sped on.
The commotion. The commotion.
Hey, Stella!
It is all about the sausage.
The Mike Trevisano Show.
But remember, to taste and eat that sausage, you must be at the table.
Weekdays at 3. Yeah. WTAM 1100.
This ejection shot in Cleveland, Ohio, October 6th, 2004. I didn't have to do it. I'd given the dog to a friend of mine, 578-1100 in the classic 216 area code if you'd like to reach the program, or 578-1111 if you cannot get through on the regular lines. And I didn't spend a whole lot of time on the phone with Navy Bob. He said, I got bad news. I said, let me guess, Stella's dead. He said, yeah, kidney failure and cancer. Here, I'll give you Nancy, his girlfriend. He says he wants to know cancer of what? Well, apparently they did blood work. They don't know cancer of what. Cancer of something and kidney failure, and she had to be put to sleep. And she said, do you want to talk to Bob again, or are you done? I said, no, I'm done. I don't know what else there was to say. Do I get another dog? Someday. Do I need a dog? You've had a dog. There are a lot of responsibility. They're like having a kid. They're also like losing a kid. That's the problem. Before I got the dog, my Icelandic plumber friend Jerry and I were having a conversation. And I said, well, and at the time my wife, she said we should get a rabbit. That you can train a rabbit to go in a litter box. And he said, the problem is if you get the rabbit and sometimes they cannot be house trained. Now she gets all attached to this big rabbit that can't be house trained. Now, what are you going to do with it? Put it to sleep? Now what do you do with the thing? Because now she's attached to it. and you got problems. And I said, all right, that's a good idea. Stella was never a problem. I still can't understand why she only lasted 7 years. John, you're on the air.
Rick, how you doing?
All right. I've been better.
I just want to tell you it's a pretty touching story what you're telling us right now.
Well, I think everybody's had a dog. You know, I mean, a lot of people have had a dog, and it's tough even when she wasn't living in the house to find out that she's gone.
Yeah, I've got a dog too. I hear you. But I got a point that I wanted to make. It's kind of upsetting to me being a dog owner. Probably will be to you too, since you were a former dog owner. Do you practice the Catholic religion?
No, I do not. I'm Protestant.
Okay, well, for all the Catholic listeners out there, the Catholic doctrine says clearly and boldly that animals are inferior to humans and they do not have souls. Hence, when you're in the afterlife, that animals will not be with you. And some are raised by dogs. I had a friend tell me about a story he heard about. There's a guy in Cleveland. His nickname is the Dog Man. I don't know if you've heard of him. He went out in the streets when he was 6 years old. He had 11 dogs that he found on the streets, and he said that they were his father's. They raised him. And somebody told him about the Catholic doctrine, what they believe, and it brought him to tears. And I don't know, it's kind of a sad thing that dogs won't be with us in the afterlife. But
well, you know,
I just want to hear your thoughts on that.
All right, keep listening. It's interesting. I had a American Heritage, whatever it is, a collegiate edition dictionary from 1984. I got a new one this past Christmas. And it does not give, and I don't know how the description of words can change. In the old dictionary, I was a vegetarian for a long time. And people would call and say animals have no soul. In the old dictionary, if you look up animal, it came from the word anima, A-N-I-M-A, which was from the Sanskrit, which is ancient language, for soul. We are animals. Soul. Now, in the new dictionary, it says animal, so I don't have the dictionary in front of me, but apparently it comes from something else other than Sanskrit, like Middle English. I think Sanskrit was around a little before Middle English, or Old English. It means soul. The funny thing about dogs is, see, unlike cats who have a mind of their own, who are very independent, I'm not a cat person. I don't dislike cats. Cats like me. Animals like me. I'm one of them guys. My buddy had a dog named Sam. The dog hated everybody, except for the family. Very protective. I went over to visit one time and sat down, and the dog fell asleep in my lap. I didn't go back for, I don't know, a few months. The dog knew me. I didn't go back for a couple of years. The dog bark, 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 bark when anybody'd come to the door. Bark, 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 bark at me. And I'd go, Sammy boy, come here, Sammy. The dog knew who I was. How do they do that? Is it from smell? Did they know what you smell like, or the sound of your voice? I mean, if time travels rather quickly for a dog, if it can pass away from cancer in a few months, well, how does it remember you for years and years? I have no clue. Brian, you're on the air.
Hi, Rick.
Howdy.
Condolences with your dog. I just went through it probably about 2 months ago. And you were wondering, like, cancer or what? You said your dog, she had litters before you had her?
She apparently, it was fixed, and she, according to the vet, I guess they can tell by looking at the nipples or whatever, you know what I mean? They can tell that the dog had nursed, and so that she had a litter, at least one litter of puppies.
Okay, because we had a female Shih Tzu, or can I say Shih Tzu or should I say Shih Tzu? Are we in a safe harbor here?
It's a dog. It's a dog name.
I know. I'm just. But we rebred her twice, and the vet said that the only way to prevent ovarian cancer is to get her fixed before she gets in her first heat, and which means, no litters. So I don't know what kind of cancer. So
well, they didn't determine what kind of cancer. They didn't cut her open, but I guess apparently they can tell from the blood work.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they did blood work on her because she was very lethargic and she was having problems holding her bladder in the house, and so that's why she went to the vet. And they did they took blood and analyzed it. I don't know exactly. I'm not a doctor, but they said she had cancer and kidney failure. And I thought, well, now that you said that, could very well be female trouble.
Yeah.
And does it really matter, cancer? Or, you know what I mean? If the dog has to be put down, it has to be put down.
Oh, no. But it sucks.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, I got the dog because I was married. I didn't want the dog. My wife wanted a dog. Well, I'll be damned if I'm going to give away what was a man's dog. You could clearly tell that dog would follow me around more than her. It was a man's dog. And so
it's your dog.
Right. I'm not giving that dog away.
No.
I kept everything. All I gave her was take your toothbrush and go.
Yep. And you mentioned earlier about how you were wondering, if dogs actually have an afterlife and a spirit. And I honestly do believe this, that they do. It was funny, just like a day after we put her to sleep, I was at a buddy's house, and some next door neighbor lady came over and had a Shih Tzu, just same kind of dog, and it came right up to me, and it's not a friendly. She says, I've never seen this dog ever be this friendly before. It came right up to me, right up in my face, and it's just all up in my face, licking me and loving me. So I think, maybe I'm overlooking it, you know what I mean? But they're there, man. You know what I mean?
Well, I heard somebody say something to me that I thought was, how there are people that like animals and other people that just sort of say they like animals but really don't.
All right.
And they said people, I'm not sure of the term, whatever, they personify their animals. You know what I mean? That they think that the animal could not survive without them. It can. It can forget about you. It can be fed by somebody else.
It is. It's all a dog is an animal that just through time became domesticated, and there's still half of them out there that aren't domesticated,
And that was
they can fight for their own.
That was a great debate I had one night at a watering hole with a guy. We were talking about how did dogs become domesticated, because if you take, say, a wolf and you cut them open when they've passed on, and you analyze the size of their brain, that the size of a wolf's brain is much larger than the size of a domesticated dog's brain, and the only conclusion we could come to was that the reason that dogs hang around with humans was because when humans started becoming civilized, they would have garbage dumps. And so they'd throw out their bones, that kind of stuff. And so the dogs would hang around where the humans were. That's how they ended up being domesticated over hundreds or whatever, thousands and thousands of years. And that the dog's brain, from a wolf to a domesticated dog's brain, shrunk because they didn't have to hunt anymore.
Right.
That makes sense to me.
Great sense. Heck yeah.
We're feeding them, so they don't need to go out and hunt. So anyway, I appreciate the phone call.
Hey, man. Thank you.
All right. It's very sad when you have a dog. I had my dog before Stella was years before Trixie. I called her Hunty. I took German in high school for about 6 years. Hund, dog in German. Hunty, great dog. She lived to be about 14 years old. The problem was German Shepherd something. German Shepherd Collie. She ended up with hip dysplasia where she would fall down. You had to pick her up. She ended up having some sort of a stroke, and I had to put her to sleep. And there's nothing more pathetic than the problem is that we as humans love those dogs so much that selfishly we keep them alive longer than they should be. You know what I'm saying? We keep them around because we don't want to go through the loss of having to put a dog to sleep. That's selfish. Jim, you're on the air.
Hi, Rick. I wanted to just give you a quick dog story. I had a half lab, half shepherd, and she lived to be 16. And I used to take her on my boat, little ball rider. I would put her on the tube. Like a couple years ago, tubing was very popular. And I told her, sit, stay. And I took off, and she would stay on that tube for a couple minutes while I drove around on the lake.
Like that squirrel that you'd see at the garden show or whatever they have at the IX Center.
Yeah, eventually she fell off and circle around and pick her up. And it's just such a delight to have a dog that would do anything for you. And
it's unconditional love.
And she would catch a Frisbee over and over until she panted so much she would just almost pass out. But she just wanted to do it as long as I would, because she just wanted to do it.
There you go.
I just want to let you know.
All right. Thanks for checking in. Yeah, I remember one time. See, Stella was smart enough. She didn't want to take pills. She didn't like anything. If she were dirty and smelly, which was occasionally, if I'd draw a bath, she'd jump in. Not when she was clean. No, she wanted nothing to do with water when she was clean. But if she stunk, she knew she stunk, and she'd jump in the shower. And I'd clean her all off. One time she got skunked. When we were living in Westlake, I would just let her out at night. She would literally run across Center Ridge Road to chase rabbits or whatever was living in the field across the street. But there was no traffic at 3 or 4 in the morning on Center Ridge. I wasn't afraid she'd get hit by a car. She was too smart for that. And so she did not come home. Well, she was outside for like an hour. Well, about that time, I'm going to have to go look for her. So I go out, and I figured, well, she's probably in the field across the street. I don't see her in the backyard. So I go across the street, and I come back, and I swear to you, it was like a skunk meets diesel fuel meets a chemical spill. I mean, it was so bad. There she stood in the hallway of the house, and she smelled so bad. And, I mean, she wanted to run upstairs, run back up into the apartment. Well, no, we got to do something with her. So the ex was upstairs, and I says, the dog's coming up. Put her in the bathtub right away. We got to do something here. So I called that emergency number that they have, that there's some kind of an animal clinic over on Brook Park Road that's open 24 hours that'll charge you $8,000 if your dog has a sore throat. I called them, and the lady says, here's what you do. She says, tomato juice ain't going to cut it. I said, no, this is not just a skunk. This is like a skunk times 5. She said, oh, that was a male skunk in heat. I said, well, wonderful. She said, do you have any white vinegar? Asked me if I had white vinegar. I said, I'm sure I do. I always keep a completely stocked pantry, She said, wash the dog in Dawn. Dishwashing soap, if you have Dawn, that's the best to cut the oil. There's the oil in the skunk spray. Wash the dog with dish soap. Rinse her off real well. And then douse her with white vinegar. And then let her air dry. Okay, what? Don't rinse it off? No. Apparently, whatever. Maybe you do. I don't remember. You rinse it off, but you don't towel dry her. Let her air dry. Well, the dog wants to jump in the bed. Now she stinks like vinegar. Well, now you close the door. She's got separation anxiety. She'll claw at the door frame and bark until you let her in the bedroom. So I had to keep telling her, get off the bed, get off the bed, get off the bed. So she air dried nicely, and she didn't smell at all until about a week later. Maybe 2 weeks later. I'm lying in bed, and there's a smell so bad it wakes me up. And I realize the dog is laying in the bed, and I have my nose stuck in an area about the size of a quarter that apparently I missed when we washed the dog. Like a week and a half later, just that one little spot smelled so badly of skunk that it woke me up. Unbelievable. Triple Doppler forecast from TV3 meteorologist Betsy Kling. Tonight, into the lower 40s, currently 53 degrees in Cleveland, 53 degrees. Tomorrow, sunny and low 60s. Listen for your cue to call on the Glenn Beck program. Be the 11th caller at 578-1111. Not now, on the Glenn Beck program. Win a pair of tickets to see 9 Sinatra songs at the State Theater. Glenn Beck weekdays at 9 here in the morning on Cleveland's only news radio. WTAM 1100. Mary Ellen, you're on the air.
Good evening, Rick.
Evening.
You met my dog, my one dog, before.
I believe I did.
And that was, I have another little one now. He's a dachshund. He's a miniature dachshund. And his name is Cheetah.
Oh, a cute little dog.
Yeah, he's a dapple dachshund. He looks really cool. But anyway, so my dog Neff is a big sister now. She's being very good training him. But anyway, I told your screener that I had 3 dogs before that who grew up and got elderly together, 3 pugs, and they lived to age 12, 14, and 16. The first pug I got, Charlie, he lived to be 16. And you had to bring up that thing about letting them go too long. My sisters, you know my sisters, they had to do an intervention on me to get me to take Charlie in because, like I was taking him outside to go to the bathroom. He had a lot of, accidents and stuff. He couldn't control things. He was blind. Almost blind. He was deaf. That's the way they get the ulcers on their eyes after a certain amount of time. But, they're perfectly happy and everything. They just had stuff happen to them. But
you don't know.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know what I mean? Sometimes I think it's selfish that we do keep dogs alive longer than maybe they should be. I mean, if I were old, incontinent, blind, and deaf, why is it we can put dogs to sleep, but if you're dying of cancer, they won't give you too much morphine because they don't want you to get addicted to it? What?
Right.
Give me a 38. I'll take care of the problem right away.
Yeah, I had my one dog, she had a lot of arthritis, and so she was like 12 when I took her into the special vet to, don't laugh, Rick, but because this is sometimes works, acupuncture. And they were going to see whether that could be useful for her. But the guy told me, she's just too old. She's not going to respond in the same type of way that a younger dog that just had it as an affliction, as opposed to being old.
Right.
So he suggested that I put her on some steroids and wasn't worried about her getting, addicted or having it harm her because she was 12 years old at that point.
Well, that's right. What do you?
A younger dog, they would, But that was fine for years, but it's funny because it was like a nursing home at my house for several years. I had the one dog only lived till 12 because she had when I got her, I kind of rescued her, and she had a hip problem. Even though she was a pug, she dragged the one foot. And when she got older, she couldn't hold up both feet and herself with the one foot. And
I'm getting depressed.
No, my point was what
I was going to ask you, what is your point?
The theory is that people don't like to get new dogs because they're so upset the old dog, like you were mentioning. You were kind of on the edge of talking about, the sadness. I know your dog was kind of youngish, but I mean, when they get sick, you never know. But
well, that's the reason. And Marianne, I got to move. I appreciate you checking in, Tigress. The reason why Navy Bob took my dog was because they had a 14-year-old dog that was in the process of checking out. So my dog was a replacement dog. That's what the real shame was that the replacement dog, I don't know. I did not ask. But it's possible that the 14-year-old dog is still alive and that Stella is not.
Come gather round, people, wherever you roam.
So Rick's world is very different now.
The waters around you have grown.
More of the program after important words coverage of what in the world's happening on Cleveland's only news radio. I'm Rick Gilmour, the dog lover's friend. And the times are changing. And the gravy train sped on.
Think like a stone, for the times they are changing.
Where were you on October 6th, 2004?
And now, here's Stella.
Bark not when you're hungry and when you want food. Bark, 'cause food will do when you're hungry.
Just a moment. We have a bulletin coming in.
Here is a bulletin from APL News.
Sit down, please. Sit down, please.
Something has happened on the gravy train route.
Ich bin ein German Shepherd.
One shot was injected.
Put me down, Doc. Put me down. Put me down, Doc. Put me down.
Stella the dog has been mortally wounded by this shooting.
Sit down, please. Sit down, please.
More details just arrived. Mr. Gilmour jumped up. He called no. No.
The food.
No.
The dinner ball.
No.
The commotion.
No. The gravy train sped on.
Rick's world is very different now.
Stella died at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Time.
She's dead all right.
Time.
She's dead all right.
More details just arrived. Mr. Gilmore jumped up. He called no, no. The gravy train sped on.
The commotion. The commotion.
$1,100.
Rick Gilmore.
Okay, so what am I guilty? What am I guilty of sinning?
On News Radio WTAM 1100.
In case you just tuned in, Stella the dog is dead. Stella the dog dead. I repeat, dead of a lethal injection shot. October 6th, 2004. And the gravy train sped on. And I'm sad about it. Probably cried out. 578-1100 in the classic 216 area code. And it's a shame I did not have to put the dog down. I gave her away to my friend Navy Bob, who was looking for a replacement dog for a dog they anticipated that they had, him and his girlfriend had, that was going to have to be put down. And I, to my knowledge, perhaps, that 14-year-old dog outlived Stella, who apparently died of cancer and kidney failure at the age of not quite 7. 45-pound Shepherd Terrier. I had her half her life. One would like to think, or not like to think, that she died because she missed Daddy. A good dog. Most of them are. Jake, you're on the air.
My brother, who's very similar to you, Rick, kind of harsh on the women, kind of, I don't know, maybe a little rough around the edges thing. Me, my wife, him and his wife were sitting around, and for some reason the subject came up about the dogs dying, and I said, yeah, oh boy, I'd be broken up if or when Thor kicks the bucket, and I thought about it. I have thought about it. He actually got up and walked out of the room, left the room, because I guess his dog got ran over and mangled up pretty good, and they saved her, but he's extremely attached to her, and yeah, it's just a rough thing, everybody that goes through it.
Yeah, it's the balance for when, I suppose the years of pleasure you get out of having an animal, the pain has to come eventually, and then such is the cycle of life.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing, I know it's coming, and, I'm sad when I think about it, that he's not going to be there when I come home and be at the top of the steps doing what he's supposed to do, protecting the wife and the family, and, his pleasure is running around like an idiot, chasing deer and turkeys and catching some groundhogs and eating a rabbit every now and then, but...
Well, I mean, my dog, like I said, had to be kept in a cage because she was such a nut that you couldn't leave her home alone. And she spent the last 5 months of her life, at least with other little buddies around, that, she didn't have to be kept in a cage. And
I did like to hear that. We haven't left Thor in the house by himself in a while. He had one incident where my sister came over and he was out in the yard, and she's like, wow, he's not tied up. He came running down to the car in the driveway. And, they must have forgot to tie him up. Yeah, or he jumped through the window.
Yep. Yeah.
Jeez, but that's what they do, and you know what? He's a big giant Alaskan Malamute, and it doesn't matter if it's winter or whatever. He can stay outside, so he stays outside. But then when we come home, we bring him inside, and it's just a wonderful thing having him around. But let's laugh for just a moment. John Terry, where was he this morning?
At church twice.
Yeah. At church twice. I don't go any other time in my life because, I don't really agree with what the church says. However, I'm at the Haitian church because, me and the Haitians up in Boston, dude, we're tight. And then I'm with Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson.
I know. Well,
dude, come on. I mean, seriously. And you know what? That should make it for, someone like you, undecided. You know what? I would look at you, Rick, if you hung around drug dealers and the crack people and this, that, and the other, just miscreants in general. You know what? What am I supposed to think of you? You're hanging around them.
Well, Jake, tune in Sunday. I'm going to run. Tune in Wednesday night at 9 o'clock, and you can hear the third debate between Bush and Kerry. And then Brad Sussman and your broadcaster will be picking it apart afterwards from 10:30 until 1 in the morning. It should be interesting. If you're a Bush fan, I hope it is better than Bush's first debate, which was not so great. What's this? Kenny, you're on the air.
What's going on, Rick?
Hey.
Sorry about your dog, brother.
Well, it was bound to happen sooner or later.
We've all been there.
Yep. I've been there like George Carlin said, life is a series of dogs.
Truly it is. And you know what? I think both my neighbors have had a few of them things. And I just want to say to all the dog-loving people out there, it's great that your dog barks and yaps and, you get all cuddly and warm feeling inside. But think about the guy sitting next door that's trying to listen to maybe the birds and get in touch with nature, and I got to hear some dog yapping for an hour straight while you guys go to the store or whatever.
Well, my neighbors went out of town, and the kids tied the dogs up outside and left them out there for about 36 hours. And,
yeah, I mean, that's just...
I've got single-pane windows in my house. My house was built in 1870, and it's a little difficult to sleep when the dog is barking constantly.
Right.
And you know what's funny? I loved my dog, and I'm sure my neighbors love their dogs. I wouldn't miss them, I guess, if they weren't there. I wouldn't even pay any attention. In fact, I don't even know if anybody noticed that my dog's gone.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I live in a quiet community, so, it's a big thing when you do hear a dog yapping all day.
I live in Tremont, and when one dog barks, everybody seems to think that they need to have a dog down there for some kind of protection.
Right, like someone's going to actually be breaking into your place.
Right, well,
you know what I mean?
One dog barks, the entire neighborhood starts barking.
Right.
Literally, there's 2 dogs next door, there's a dog across the street, then the dog up the road, he hears those dogs barking, and it just travels like playing telephone. And
they're talking to each other.
Yeah, pretty soon.
And you know what? So is it proper etiquette for me to go yell at my neighbor's dog and tell him to shut up?
Well, why not? You're not yelling at the neighbor, you're yelling at the dog.
Right. All right, then I guess I'm in the clear.
All right, Kenny, go for it. All right, go for it. I gave you permission. Rick, you're on the air.
Hi, Rick. Hey, you got a good show.
You've got a really cool name.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
So my wife and I at one point figured if we could raise a dog, we'd be able to raise children. Got this beautiful Akita. And I'm going to be careful what I say because I might get a little bit broken up, and I don't want to do that. But I had to put her down because my wife was 6 months pregnant, and my dog, my beautiful Akita, couldn't get along with my son. Nothing worse with losing a dog because the dog's sick is having to drive the dog and just look into the dog's eyes and explain that this is the way that it's got to be. Because you can't give away an Akita. There's certain breeds that you just...
They're yours, and that's it.
And they're dangerous to other people.
Right.
Very well in tune to us. You mentioned about an afterlife. A couple weeks after this happened, and I still can't talk about it now, but we were on the back porch. I was talking to a friend of mine from work, and you mentioned an afterlife. And in a quiet moment, while I'm just kind of sobbing, there's the scritch of good old Yoshi's nails on the pavement, and we heard her chain. And this guy I was talking to just turned white. And I said, yeah, I know, she's here. Now, I called you last week because my son has seen the previous owner of the house, and I mentioned Mary Ann, and I mentioned that my wife brought a priest over, and I'm really kind of concerned that he ran off my dog because she's been here for quite a while. I'm going to tell you, there is an afterlife for dogs. There really is. There's an afterlife for anything that you love that much.
Yep.
I feel sorry for what you're going through, dude, but you're going to make it. It's going to be all right.
Appreciate the phone call.
Take care.
All right. Charles Hartshorn, the philosopher that came out after World War I, when it was popular to say there is no God, came out and said, when you die, when anyone dies, you become part of that swirling mass of energy that surrounds us all that's God. The electricity that makes your heart beat becomes part of that swirling mass of energy. The God of the Old Testament, not so pleasant. The God of the New Testament, nicer. Learning ever from the experiences of every creature on this earth, not just humans. If there were no electricity to make the heart beat, no animal would exist. Anima, Sanskrit, it means soul. Now, pigs are not an endangered species, so if you want to have a pork chop, fine. I was a vegetarian. I say was a vegetarian. The best way to make a species not be endangered is to put it on a plate. Start breeding them and put them on plates. What else can I say? Triple Doppler forecast from TV3 meteorologist Betsy Kling tonight into the lower 40s, currently 53 degrees in Cleveland, 53. Tomorrow, sunny and a high in the low 60s. Drudge report coming up after the top of the hour. If ever there was a time to replay me telling the Stella story, strike while the iron is hot. Stella, I'll miss you. And that's all I can say. And so, like I said, after tonight, I suppose, telling the Stella story again, this was from Memorial Day weekend or thereabouts, would be kind of a moot point. Just a best of in the archives. But tonight, I thought we'd replay it. It's an interesting story. She was an interesting dog. I'm Rick Gilmore, the dog lover's friend, and this is Cleveland's only news radio, WTAM 1100. Tell you a little story. I thought about that. I'm not going to go heavy on you. I'm not going to talk about the war. I'm not going to drag you down. You're out at a picnic or a party or something, and okay, so whatever you're doing. But I thought I'd tell you a little story about my dog. Everybody loves dogs, don't they? I gave my dog away, at least temporarily. Tell me what you think. When my dog was about 3 years old, apparently my landlord, who lives in Tremont when I was living in Westlake, comes home to Tremont, and the neighbor lady says, "You're mean." He says, what are you talking about? She says, "It's February and you left your dog out for 3 days while you went away to Hawaii or wherever it was you went on vacation?" He says, "I don't have a dog." She says, "Well, you do now, because it's been sitting on your front porch for 3 days." So he takes the dog in. Little German Shepherd Terrier mix, about 40 pounds. Bright red like fresh rust. Right? So I happen to get down and give him a rent check out in Westlake, and he's printing up a flyer. He's got one of them printers that takes forever to print anything. But it's a color printer. It's got a picture of this little rusty-colored dog, and, you know, her name is whatever. She'll answer by any name. She's a good girl. She's 3 years old. She's had a litter of puppies. She's been spayed. Free to good home. Got to go. And I says, well, you know, at the time, my wife, pardon me, where did that come from? I says, well, she'd really like to have a dog, but we live in your apartment upstairs, and you said no pets. But I'll take your dog if we can keep him upstairs. And he says, well, you can have the dog. I said, really? He says, oh, she's housebroken, she's trained, she's a real good dog. Okay, great. So we take the dog. Now we go out at night, right? Work during the day, whatever, go out at night. out for a few hours. We leave the dog, close the door, come back. The first night she chewed a little bit at the door frame. The next night we go out, we come home, I walk up the stairs, there's carpeting in the apartment. I can't open the door. Why? I keep pushing and pushing and pushing, and finally shoulder the door open. The dog has torn up 2 foot deep and 3 foot wide carpet in front of the door, ripped a piece of molding that was put on in the 1920s around the door frame, 2 foot tall. 2 foot of wooden molding is broken from the door frame. I had plastic around the windows, to keep the heat in and the air out. Torn off of every window in the house. I walk in the bedroom. She had jumped on the bed. There's a window where the head of the bed would be against the wall. Broke the glass and the wooden frame on a second-story window. Trying to get out, right? To follow me, I guess. Insane German Shepherd Terrier nut. So, I buy one of those cages, the plastic cage with the little metal grated door, and put the dog in the bedroom the next night. The dog promptly ripped the cage door off, got out of the cage, and tore up more of the bedroom door trying to get out. What's wrong with this dog? I call my landlord. I said, this dog's insane. Well, he had her for about a month. Yeah, I called the dog Rufus. I said, Rufus is no name for a girl. I named her Stella. I was going to name her I'm an a-hole, but I thought it would sound better if I'm in the park in my Italian wife-beater shirt going, Stella, come here, instead of the alternative. So, get one of those metal cages, right? She's breaking the welds on the bars of the cage. There's blood on the bottom of the cage floor from her tearing at the cage, and she gets a big, you know what I'm talking about? The big metal cage. She got out. It got so bad I ended up taking the little wire door off the plastic cage and going to a hardware store and getting those loops that you thread together and threading the other cage door onto that cage door to keep her in. And it's been like that for 3 years. She would bark until I would come home. Literally. Her tongue was purple. She'd drink all her water. I'd walk outside and listen to her. I wouldn't get in the car. I'd just kind of listen. 20 minutes later, 25. Arf, 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 arf. So she finally calmed down and quit tearing the entire cage apart. Do these people have any kind of names, Edmund? I'm looking at the big board. I don't see nothing. I don't know if we're disconnected. No, we're connected. Or maybe they shouldn't have names. We're just callers calling to wish Rick happy birthday.
We had a caller who was upset about my comment that the church should help people, who said that, well, at first he said he was homeless. The church helped him get back into a home. And then he said that people didn't owe others anything. And I was all types of expletive.
Oh, so he turned Republican once he
got his help.
Yeah, once he got his.
Right.
Then nobody else needs help.
And apparently, he's supposed to be on his way up here to see me tonight.
Really?
Got that upset, yeah.
Yeah, well.
Yeah,
I can go to my trunk and show him the business end of a Mossberg 500.
Oh, well, no, we don't have to go there.
No, we don't.
I dog walk him around this parking lot.
There you go.
Embarrassing.
There you go.
But, like I say,
Speaking of dogs, right?
Yeah.
You can't run with the big dogs. Stay on the porch, little puppy. You going to bark all day or you going to bite?
Yeah, he was upset. I was all types of freedom of speech, he said. And then he had some bad things to say about you. He said that you were homosexual. And, me, I asked him how would he know. He got upset about that. I didn't say it like that.
Right.
How he would know.
Right.
But I told him how he would know.
Yeah, right.
So he got mad and didn't want to respect the free speech issue.
Oh, that's too bad. I am a lesbian. I think we're both lesbians. We've been lesbians. We love women.
Yeah, 26 years now.
I'm 43 today. These phone lines ought to all be lit, but I'm just going to sit here and tell my little dog story until I get tired of it. And I don't care. It's my birthday, so I'll tell this story if it takes all night and I don't take one phone call. How's that? So, and I'm not going to be able to get through the story before the news. So, where did I leave off? The dog in the cage, and it's been outside, and it's been that way for 3 years. I will tell you more of Stella the dog. What do I do? What do I do? Does she stay or does she go now? More of the program after we do a little business with you, a little business. After we sell you 50 cent worth of products, do a little business with you on my birthday. And we give you coverage of what in the world's happening. I'm Rick Gilmore, the drinking man's friend. And this is Cleveland's only news radio, WTAM 1100.
Where were you on October 6th, 2004?
And now, here's Stella.
Bark not when you're hungry and when you want food. Bark, 'cause food will do when you're hungry.
Just a moment. Just a moment. We have a bulletin coming in.
Here is a bulletin from APL News.
Sit down, please. Sit down, please.
Something has happened on the gravy train route. On the gravy train route.
Ich bin ein German Shepherd.
One shot was injected.
Put me down, Doc. Put me down. Put me down, Doc. Put me down.
Stella the dog has been mortally wounded by this shooting.
Sit down, please. Sit down, please.
More details just arrived. Mr. Gilmore jumped up. He called no. No.
The food.
No.
The dinner ball.
No.
The commotion.
No. The gravy train sped on.
Rick's world is very different now.
Stella died at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
She's dead all right.
Time.
She's dead all right.
More details just arrived. Mr. Gilmore jumped up. He called no. The gravy train sped on.
The commotion. The commotion.
This is not official. Paul Harvey is best taken in doses.
Enjoy.
Get your first.
A feel-good effect.
Weekday mornings at 8:30.
Magnetically stimulating the brain.
Very cool. On WTAM 1100. WTAM.com. A recreation of the big one in cyberspace. Cleveland's #1 source for radio news, information, and sports. Online. Streaming worldwide. Hear Glenn, Rush, Triv, Keen, Wills, and Coleman. Wherever you are. Every time you need to know. Read the latest local and national news. Check the forecast. Get news about your money. WTAM.com. Click the audio archive. Download Newsmaker, entertainer, and sports figure interviews. Get in on contests that aren't on the air.
Like a chance to win a free custom LASIK procedure at TLC Laser Eye Centers, Cleveland.
Read all about the hosts you love and the ones you love to hate. See the faces made for radio. Check out the Babe of the Day, movie reviews, games, jokes, travel. Sign up for the Buzz, the WTAM e-newsletter. Print coupons for discounts on Cleveland dining, shopping, entertainment, and services. Navigate, communicate, activate. WTAM.com, the big one, worldwide.
The Sony Hi-MD Walkman player with removable 1 gig Hi-MD discs and 25 hours of battery life. Unlimited discs means unlimited music. Sony, like no other.
Continuing coverage on Cleveland's only news radio, WTAM 1100.
After today, 3 weekends left for the campaigners. Good evening. I'm Cliff Bakley, and this is the 9:30 report on News Radio WTAM 1100. Details coming up. Channel 3 triple Doppler weather. Here's meteorologist Betsy Kling.
Temperatures once again sliding back into the low 40s under mostly clear skies tonight.
Currently 52 degrees at your official weather station, News Radio WTAM 1100. John Kerry courted black voters today, saying that rather than doing the things to move on down that road, some people are going backwards. Kerry visited a couple of churches in Florida where he told parishioners, "We have an unfinished march in this nation."
Never again will 1 million African Americans be denied their right to exercise the vote in the United States of America. That's not going to happen.
President Bush, no campaign events today, but is at his ranch in Crawford, Texas, preparing for Wednesday's third and final debate. Bush advisor Karen Hughes talked with ABC News about the debate preps.
Our preparation will be similar to what it's been, which is to sit down and go through what the arguments Senator Kerry's making.
New census data shows that only 16 counties, including Cuyahoga, registered an increase in kids under 5 years old from 2000 to 2003. Bill Teets with the Ohio Department of Development says new and good jobs will change that.
One of the things that we want to do in terms of economic development is to reverse this trend, and we think that the best way to do that is by attracting good companies that are providing good paying jobs.
The census data shows that Ohio's overall population of kids under the age of 5 was 740,000 in 2003. That's a 2% drop from 2000. The Browns outplayed by the Steelers today 34-23 in Pittsburgh. In baseball, Atlanta rallied to beat Houston 6-5. I'm Cliff Bakley on Cleveland's only news radio, WTAM 1100.
Continuing coverage coming up at the top of the hour. Breaking news as it happens. News Radio WTAM 1100.
As of December 31st, I will no longer be delivering babies and doing gynecologic surgeries because of the malpractice crisis.
That's Patricia Stevenson, who, like doctors across America, is leaving her practice because of rising costs.
Costs are being driven up by lawsuits. Physicians are now practicing a very different kind of medicine than we used to. It's much more defensive medicine, and it's very costly.
Maternity wards are closing. Doctors are being forced out. The reason? Frivolous lawsuits. John Kerry and the liberals in Congress side with personal injury trial lawyers. They've opposed tort reform 10 times. Opposed reforms that would lower health care costs for everyone.
Tort reform is necessary. Tort reform is what's going to save medicine in this country. If Mr. Kerry and his allies were elected, I don't think there would be any hope for tort reform in this country.
I'm President Bush, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Bush Cheney 04 Inc. and the Republican National Committee.
Hey, I'm Mike Terrasano for Dish One Up Satellite. And listen to this. If you love your gadgets, if you love high-end electronics like I do, then there's never been a better time to call Dish One Up because they're giving them away free. Now you can get a free digital video recorder that can pause and rewind your favorite programs. You can skip through commercials on top of that, and you'll get a free high-definition receiver and a free DVD player. Seriously, that's over $1,000 in free electronics. They'll even give you packages start at $29.99 a month for 60 channels. You can even get free equipment and installation in your office or business. But in case you don't believe your ears, I'll say it again. Call Dish One Up now to find out how you get over $1,000 in free electronics, including a free HD TV receiver, digital video recorder, a DVD player, and free installation up to 4 rooms. So disable the cable now and order online at dish1up.com or call them 1-800-DISH-1UP. That's 1-800-DISH, the number 1 and up.
Annual commitment and restrictions apply. Call for details. The best Browns coverage every day, all season.
Jeff Garcia with us on WTAM 1100.
We need to find a way to have more of an urgency, but it has to start right now.
Team Browns coverage.
It's a team that's going to grow together.
Like with Dave Campbell, defensive coordinator for the Cleveland Browns.
The players have to play what you call, period.
Browns beat reporter David Kelly embedded with the team.
This defense can survive the injuries that they have, but this offense right now cannot.
The AM home of the Browns.
And they have proved it.
News Radio WTAM 1100.
Hey, Stella!
The best Browns coverage every day. day, all season.
Jeff Garcia with us on WTAM 1100.
We need to find a way to have more of an urgency, but it has to start right now.
Team Browns coverage.
It's a team that's going to grow together.
Like with Dave Campbell, defensive coordinator for the Cleveland Browns.
The players have to play what you call, period.
Browns beat reporter David Kelly embedded with the team.
This defense can survive the injuries that they have, but this offense right now cannot.
The AM home of the Browns.
And they have proved it.
News Radio, WTAM 1100.
Oh, yeah. Hadn't gotten around to taking a phone call yet. I was telling the Stella story about my dog. So I got this wacko, a large, husky German dog. And, you know, by the way, my grandfather was a German Shepherd. No, really, he was a shepherd in Germany. So all they tell you in the dictionary is it's for blind people and popo. It's a guide dog, and it bites people, and the police have them. And that's all they tell you about them. That's the entire set of rules for the German Shepherd.
The Lord has given unto you these 10 commandments.
Well, I guess that's right.
You got that right, my man.
Yeah. So this nutty dog that I have to keep in a cage is a wonderful creature as long as a human being is present. Or so I thought. Well, anyway, if there's a human being present, she's all right. Now, what do I do with her if there's an emergency? Me and the wife get divorced. I keep everything, even including her underpants. I gave them back finally. They didn't fit me. They were too big. But I kept the dog. I kept the house. I was always a better housekeeper than her, and I proved it. I kept the house. And in fact, I'm never going to get married again. I'm going to find a woman who hates me and just give her my house. That's the way to do it in the future. So I got this dog. My brother passed away last not this past one, the year before, Holy Saturday. Now, what are you going to do with the dog when you got to go out of state? Can't take the dog with you. You're going to put this nutcase dog that loves... I mean, I've got single-pane windows in my house. My house was built in 1870. So if I open the windows, there's no screens. You know what I mean? You open the window, that's it. If I open the window in the summertime and I go outside, there's the dog. She jumps out through the open window and she's standing next to me. Hates cats. I don't know who trained this dog, where she came from. She hates cats and she hates black people. She must have been owned by a neo-Nazi. I mean, she just can't. I mean, she'll bark. God, I went to the license bureau on East 55th with the dog with me and left the window down so she could breathe. Edmund, my dog, would chew your leg off. I don't know why. She dislikes black people. Must have been owned by some hillbilly, right? Before she ended up being a stray.
But you never know. Dog could have been abused and just, register, or anything could happen. Just register everything the same.
That she could have been owned by some guy that was black and beat the crap out of her because she has a broken nose. Her tip of her nose is not the way it should be.
Right.
She's got scars on her corneas. She's got a chipped tooth.
Yeah.
But we don't know how long she was also a stray. I mean, she could have been running around and gotten the crap kicked out of her.
That's true.
Who knows?
Right. That's my thinking.
So I didn't want to board the dog. So my buddy, my Icelandic friend Jerry, the Icelandic plumber, who, by the way, ladies, is available, his girlfriend and him kept the dog while I was out of state, and they had another dog. But they had a big yard for it to run around in, so the two dogs were all real happy and everything, and hold on while I turn the mic off and cough. Well, that was a good cough. Did that make the dead air light come on? Have another cigarette, Rick. No, actually, I'm just getting over the creeping crud. So, the dog was fine, but there was always another human being at that house. So, here it is. Birthday weekend for Rick Gilmour, May 30th. The real Memorial Day. Remember. My buddy Navy Bob and his girlfriend come over. They're going to buy some furniture from me. I'm going to sell my house, or I'm thinking about selling my house. Unless, of course, that monetary miracle from the people from Global Expeditions comes true. If they pray for me, the drug mart out there, they're selling muffins that I was telling you about earlier. So, I figured, well, I'll sell the house. It's a great big house. I don't need 2,400 square feet of house for me and the dog. I'm hardly home. When I am home, the dog's thrilled. What's she do? Runs around, wags her tail, talks to me, one of those, and then goes to sleep. Now, this dog that was the color of fresh rust, by the time I fattened her up a bit and got her healthy, she's almost black. She's black and dark brown. So apparently she was fairly abused. So Navy Bob and his girlfriend Nancy come over, and they're looking at this furniture to buy. Well, they've got a couple of dogs. One of them is elderly. It's like 14, and it's fixing to croak. Sooner or later, a historical inevitability. Well, they fall in love with my dog, and they're looking for a replacement dog, right? Somewhere down the road. So I said, okay, all right. You know, I said, I got a busy birthday weekend. I'm filling in for Becker on Saturday morning, and then I'm on my and then I got the birthday party Saturday night that I had last night, and then I got to work the Monday for Kevin Keene, plus my regular show. So, it's, you know, I'm hardly going to be home. And he says, we'll take the dog. Leave the dog for a weekend. Now, he's almost demanding. You know, I mean, he fell in love with the dog. Wants me to bring the dog over to the house. Another cough. How was that? Had to turn the mic off. You notice we're running a little loosey-goosey tonight. So anyway, I take the dog over, and she is clearly a little taken aback, I think. Put her in the yard, and his other dog, Molly's running around, and you know how dogs, they are prisoners of their nose. Sniff, 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 sniff. Don't I know you? That smells familiar, that kind of thing. Stella, who's normally very outgoing and would kill any kind of cat she could catch in Tremont, won't even go near Navy Bob's two cats. He calls me and says, well, he started a new job and Nance works. They left the dog. I said, you left that dog alone? I mean, in your house without putting it in some kind of a cage? Did it jump out a window? Did it tear up the door frame? Did it eat the carpeting? Did it kill the cat? It was fine. It was fine. So apparently, if it's got some kind of a little buddy or two, apparently it'll go nose to nose with the cats and back off. Lay down on the bed, and then the cat will jump up. It must be the end of the world. Sister going after brother, cat lying down with dog. The cat will lie down next to my dog.
What? But the dog's no dummy. And I mean, sometimes it's not where you're from, it's where you're at.
That's what I'm thinking.
And if it's a couple more of them,
that's what I'm thinking is the dog backed way off because now it's on somebody else's turf.
Yeah.
Not on my turf.
Yeah.
It's turf.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of people like that.
Well, you're right.
There's a lot of people who tough over the phone.
Yeah, like that guy that gave you a hard time.
Tough over the phone or at home.
Right.
And then, when
push comes to shove.
Yeah, you get shoved around.
Yeah. It's like if Carl Monday came to your house and knocked on your front door, would you push down Carl Monday or would you wait until later in the week?
You'd wait till that camera wasn't around.
Yeah, then I'd push him down Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, a Friday afternoon. No, I wouldn't. So, well, all the lines are lit now, and I'm having too good of a time just talking. I'll get to you.
We still missing one.
Oh, we are. There it is.
There we go. Okay.
Let's open up the contest lines at 578-1111, see if we can get them lit up, too, and I'll keep telling the Stella story. So I was planning on selling the house and moving into a condo or an apartment or something like that. Well, either way, you can't have a dog. You can't have what is now a 45 or 50-pound German Shepherd Terrier that barks like a maniac still for about the first 5 minutes. And in my mind, would I let that dog free in my house if I left with single-pane windows and I'd come home with half a dog inside the house, half a dog outside the house, and a puddle of blood? So Bob calls me, and of course I miss my dog. You know how you get used to having an animal around the house, and you know I keep looking every time I get out of bed. Oops, am I going to step on something? There's nothing there. Well, what's over there on the chair? Isn't she there? Oh, there's nothing there. Maybe she's in the kitchen. There's nothing there. But I got mice back in the house again. Apparently, once the dog was gone, they decided they were going to go at the dog food, so I got to kill them off. Do I have to tell the snap, snap, snappy, snap, trap story again sometime? Probably should. It was a good one. So I kept thinking, well, okay, I miss the dog. I love the dog. I don't have a yard. I don't run. I barely walk. I mean, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm just lazy when it comes to exercise. I'm the PU man, physically unfit. I'm 6'3". I'm up to 149. Hey, now. So apparently the dog is getting along swimmingly with Navy Bob, Nancy, the other two dogs, and the two cats, and it's got a yard to run around in. And I'm planning on selling the house and moving into an apartment. And I thought, you know what? Bob says, I'll take the dog for a day, a weekend, a week, a month, a year. You ever want the dog back? You can have the dog back, but she's more than welcome to stay. And I thought, you know, with my luck, if I take that dog back, because I do have my moments, I am a Gemini. No, I'm not. Yes, I am. No, I'm not. Yes, I am. So I have my moments where I feel like getting in the car and going back. I had a little car trouble tonight. I got a ride. I was going to get a ride down here. I got a ride halfway down here and then found out that the car was okay and then went back and got it. And so thanks to my buddy for fixing it there. It was nothing. It was nothing. Dummy me. I left the dome light on. Well, how do you know? You come out the next day and it won't start. You can't tell if the dome light's on until there's juice in the battery. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. I thought, you know, if I take that dog back, you know what's going to happen? I take that dog back, then I sell the house and buy a condo, right? Then maybe Bob's elderly dog that's 14 years old dies in the meanwhile, and then they go out and get another dog. So now I got this wacko dog that apparently is fine if it's got little buddies, but ain't fine in my house. And I you know, it's one of those, it's a toss-up. You think, if the quality of the dog's life is better with somebody else, with other dogs and a yard to run around in, and, you know, I guess I would be selfish, wouldn't I? To want to keep that dog. It's a toss-up. What do you think? I'd tell you the number, but what's the point? I'm not taking any calls yet. So I thought, well, you know, after tomorrow, once I'm done with Keene's shift, then it's back to business as usual until I'm on, I don't know when I'm on next weekend, Saturday or Sunday or both or something, whenever. And you know how radio works? I'm a popular fella. I'm just going to end up with more airtime eventually. And that means more time for the dog to be in the cage. And then when I do come home, I'm not going to run around the block. Yeah, somebody said, who was it? Mark Tromba, when I was filling in for Becker. He goes, well, you could come downstairs with me to the workout room after the show and run 2 miles around the track like I do. I go, what? You want me in an iron lung for my birthday? I don't run. Last time I ran was from the Popo. I dined and dashed from Denny's. I don't run. And so, that's been a while ago. What was it, month? 2 months? No, I think it's been 22 years in a month or something. So, I don't know. What do you think? I figured it's probably in the dog's best interest if is she happy? That's my point. Is she happy, or is she behaving herself because she's on someone else's turf? And there's more of them than there is of her. Because when she's at my house, she rules the roost. Right? She's queen of the house. Got rid of I had 2 dogs and got rid of a divorced one and kept the other. Woof. Did I say that? Guess I did. So I thought, well, maybe I'd go over to Bob's house and visit. Well, now, if the dog is clearly neurotic, I'm wondering, if I go and visit my dog, will she go nutcake? There's Daddy, there's Daddy, there's Daddy. Now, how can I tell? Because she's neurotic anyway. Does she want to come home because she thinks it's a hellhole because there's too many other animals, and she'd rather live in a cage and sleep all the time? Or is she just happy to see Daddy? Or what? Now, I'm no dog psychologist. But, I mean, a whack job German Shepherd Terrier is hard enough to figure. Oh, look, I've talked so long, they're going away. What'll happen if I just talk all next hour, too? Bob Lassiter was one of my favorite radio heroes. Well, let me get back to the dog. I'll get to Bob Lassiter and Putt-Putt later. Let me make a note. Bob Lassiter and Putt-Putt. Not in that order, right? Putt-Putt first, right? I'll do a little arrow there. Putt-Putt, then Bob Lassiter. So how can I tell? If I go see the dog, obviously, she knows who I am, because the guy that gave her to me, I'd see the dog, I'd see him and I'd take the dog around someplace like a year and a half after she hadn't seen the guy, and she wants to jump right in his pickup truck. And she knows who he is. She's a smart dog, right? Good girl. Good Stella. Do you have that somewhere in there on my page? You've got that for the bump, that thing that says, "That's my dog." We have Stella speaking. Want to hear Stella speak before we end up going away to the top of the hour news? And because I'm just rambling on forever.
Rick Gilmour.
What? Stella, who is it? That's my dog.
On News Radio WTAM 1100.
When you have fond memories of a dog. I talk to cat people. Are you a cat person or a dog person?
Me, dogs.
I'm a dog person.
Cats are too sneaky for me.
They're independent. They don't really like you. They don't... We don't know what that was. A cat scratching itself. They disappear. You ever have a cat and you look around and it's like the Cheshire Cat when all you see is a smile? You can't find the animal. You don't know where it went. Did it end up in the furnace pipes or something? It just disappears. You don't know where the cat is. Well, it's around somewhere. It'll show up. You know why? Because it's hungry. That's why it'll show up. It really doesn't care less about you. Or does it? So I talk to cat people. See, cat people don't get it. Cat people are cat people, dog people are dog people. Apparently, some people are cat and dog people. I love children and cats as long as they're properly cooked. Or something like that. So, you talk to cat people and they say, you don't. Or how about people that don't have pets or never had a pet? Oh, you don't want a dog around. I said, well, I'll tell you one thing. The dog needed a bath. And dogs always need a bath. Now I walked in my house. It doesn't smell like a dog anymore. However, people that don't have pets don't understand. More of the story.